Jack Shanley talks about this, basically about the animal behavior that suspects exhibit when they're running from the police. It doesn't matter if you're in the UK or the US or Australia or anywhere else in the world. They're trying to get away in the same ways, So one thing this podcast and the networking that's come from that has highlighted is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're employing the same tactics. We're even using a lot of the same equipment. So it's really interesting to talk to you guys and hear about, not how different we are, but how similar we are.
Yeah.
It's really neat. I love
We've
that.
all seen suspects lie down on a roof thinking, you can't see me. and just, the classic anti-helicopter pose. We've seen people, change run round a corner and then start walking as if they don't stand out, and there's just, you're right. It's that blend of, it's policing from the air. So you need to be a police officer. You need to think like a police officer and have that patrol officer experience to get the best out of it. Because if you can empathize with the officers on the ground, you know what they can do, what their limitations are of their equipment. You know what's dangerous and what's not. So you can provide them with that guidance from the air. And I've been on jobs and I've watched back the videos of my crews that have been on jobs where we have saved people's lives, undoubtedly, by an intervention from the air that stopped an officer going into a situation which was really, really dangerous. And, that's exceptionally rewarding for any crew. And I was, we've always joked that on the air support unit, we fly around in the relative luxury of a cockpit, air conditioned, in our nice little world. We deliver the service and then we go back to the base for tea and medals, and that's how it is. It's funny you talked about, chair one. Air support all over the world has the same thing. You'll always get, oh, you never come. It's always foggy where you are. There's always a reason why. And actually,
right.
that is farthest from the truth it could possibly be. That the crews would fly 24 hours a day if they could. There's nobody comes to work not wanting to fly. I genuinely believe that. And if they do, then it's about setting high standards of leadership. And I remember one occasion where a police officer, a female police officer, was stopping a car, and the driver of the car ran her over, and she was quite seriously injured. And they called for air support. And I remember the crew, it didn't fit the deployment criteria, and they didn't go. And I remember coming in the next day and debriefing that and saying, because the inspector of that team had rung me and said, you do realise the impact that had on the officer on the ground because you didn't come. And I could only apologise and say we should have gone. It's about hearts and minds. If we can't be bothered to go and support one of our own, then you've lost an entire team who think that your aviation unit is a waste of time. And it was interesting learning that came because the crew didn't think of it that way. And they realised afterwards, I think, that it doesn't matter that you're not going to find. It's about showing willing to go and put a presence over the top. Sometimes it is about an almost like a use of force. We're showing that we've got this in our arsenal to come and deal with you. The helicopters come, and it shows we're serious, and we will try our very best to support you, even if we know the chance of success is low. And I think that's really important to any TFO, is to never forget where we came from. We came from the patrol, and we'll go back to the patrol one day, and we need to deliver that excellent service to them always. And it's not always about our success. It's about how they perceive it.
Yeah. Yeah. You hit something there with we used to call them, or I used to call them pigeons. You got to throw rocks at some of them to make them fly. But, we had a few of those guys in the unit early on when I started. And that was always a challenge. Like, guys on the ground would call and say, hey, is the air unit available for this? And all the way out to the helicopter, climbing into the helicopter, all the way to the, scene was, well, what do they want us to do about this? And and it was like, I don't know. I don't care. Let's just go and we'll figure it out when we get there. And like you said, it's the appearance of, we're getting into a helicopter and we're flying. It's not like we're walking to the scene, in the elements. We're in a helicopter. We've got the best job there. And all they want us to do is fly over and take a look for something. granted, we may find it, we may not. I don't know. I don't care. But at the end of the day, like you said, I'm going to then turn around. We're going to fly back to the hangar at some point and land. And we're not going to be dealing with people yelling at us and people spitting at us and getting in uses of force. So at the end of the day, like, we've got the better job. Like, we can go out and put ourselves out for a little bit to go fly around. And, we really tried our best to eliminate that kind of attitude, from the unit, because, like we've said multiple times, they're our customers. And if they stop calling for us, we're not doing our units any good when there's that attitude of, well, they're never going to come, or, like you said, it's always foggy wherever they're at, to have that attitude. And you're right. I mean, there was many nights flying over the city, looking at the lights, and it's, the air is smooth and visibility, you can see a million miles. And it would just, that sense of, and I get paid to do this. Like, this is amazing. Yeah. Like, I can't believe it. We have the best job in the world. And, the camaraderie, like you said, I mean, sitting here talking to a law enforcement aviator halfway around the world, and, we have those same shared experiences. And that's why law enforcement as a profession has always been, I've not been to England, but I have had London police officers come to the United States, and we take them up in the helicopter, and you have these, they've seen the same things. So it's that shared camaraderie of, we've all done the same job, different places, having friends in Australia and have gone down there and met with, the Pole Air guys. It's just, we're all doing the same job. And that's where that kind of like, fraternity comes from. And it's so much fun to sit and talk to somebody from a different part of the world and compare notes. It's refreshing, because I think we all have the same challenges. We all have the same challenges. And that's honestly what John's created with this podcast, is the ability for us to share those stories and share that camaraderie, amongst a much larger audience. Because there's probably some guy sitting in a part-time air unit, in some rural place in Alabama or Arkansas, or, wherever in the United States, that might not ever have the chance to meet and talk to somebody from London, England, or Australia. And so for us to be able to kind of use this platform to kind of bring us all together and share these stories and capture the history of, these different units and where they came from and where they're going, and to kind of memorialize that, I think is just, it's the best part of what we get to do by doing this.
Well, my unit was always very good at borrowing with pride. So we would borrow, with permission, of course, most of the time, anything we could lay our hands on. So anything that anyone would give us, we would take. And likewise, anything we created, we would share. There's no point in having, a monopoly on something. So if I've got a set of standard operating procedures or training manuals that I've spent a year writing, why would I not give them to someone to save them a year writing them? Maybe they will just have to spend 2 months adjusting them to fit their unit. And I always think that global family of police aviators, wherever we are, we should, be learning from each other's experiences, using each other's materials. There's no commercial advantage. I'm not giving you away something that's going to cost me a commercial price. I'm giving you away something which hopefully it will be of some use to you. And even if you just read it and then go, oh, that was interesting, that's fine. We've always done that. We've shared with our colleagues from Europe and colleagues from around the world whatever we can. And I think that's what makes police aviation great.
We're not in the business of, competing, for market share or, something like that, where we have to have these, like you mentioned earlier, we have trade secrets, right? We, our tactics that we use to catch bad guys, and we don't share those kind of things on the podcast. We don't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but, for obvious reasons, but, sharing this common knowledge, it just makes us better. It makes us safer. And it makes us more effective. And at the end of the day, I think that's what all administrators want is, an effective, unit that's, kind of streamlined and is, if you're putting a helicopter out there, again, spending millions of dollars to put a law enforcement equipped aircraft with these sensors and everything to, send a couple of aircrew members up that don't have any clue how to use any of it, you're wasting your money. So to have, crews that are well trained and learning how to use this new technology to go out there and be really effective at catching bad guys, it's a no brainer. That's what we all want.